someone else joins, we'll circle back to that. How does that sound?
It's a good course of action. That sounds good.
Okay, great. Here, I think that might be Larry talking. Okay, so first of all, hi, hope everyone's doing well. And this could be a short meeting, or it could be a really great time to have some just conversation and dialogue about some of the things that have been going on, and sort of brainstorming and thinking into future plans for our group. So we'll just be really casual this morning, and run through these items as they are on the agenda. The first information item we had was kind of a recap and follow-up discussion of the UDO. Any comments or questions on that right now? Anything anyone wants to share? I have to say that for me, that's one that going into it, I kind of was like, I'm not sure what this is exactly and what I'm going to learn, but of our speakers that we've had, it's one that has stuck with me and made a really big impact on kind of how I view all the pieces and how they come together, which I mentioned in my note earlier.
I appreciated Desmond coming and hearing what he had to say. After placing all the phone calls and interviews that I've done with the other BPACs, that seems like a very important partnership that our committee could make. And understanding the UDOs, the rules around how things are constructed, built, go through the planning process, I think is important for us to know and understand. Right before everyone came on, Greg and I were on together, and I asked him if I could spend some time with him since he worked for the city in this area, if he could help me understand some of the language in it, because some of the language to me is a little counterintuitive, or it conflicted as I read it. And some of the acronyms that are used, I really don't understand it. And some of them referenced other sections, which I only had the 2 sections that we emailed out. So not having access to the other sections, I'd have to go look those up and try to understand it. So it's very in-depth, but I did, just in reading the 2 different sections, saw some things that I would like to recommend, maybe thinking about changes or edits. So I enjoyed it thoroughly and actually have read the 2 sections. So yes.
Yeah, do you want to share those now, or hold that for later conversation?
Might be good to hold it for later conversation. Okay. Some of it, a lot of it was in parking. I think that, no, the bicycle parking. I saw a lot where, like manufacturing, why do we not require some parking spaces for bicycles for manufacturing? We're not thinking, in retail, I think they think about the people coming to the store, but in manufacturing, we need to think about the employees going to the business. So anyway, I saw a lot of recommendations there where maybe we could ask them to reconsider if bicycle parking is needed. When it came to the streets and vehicle and pedestrian circulation, I question the sidewalks. Why only on one side? And I don't know if you want to get into this much depth, but there were quite a few other things where I had questions just because I didn't quite understand the language. But yes, I think that it would be invaluable for us to spend time going through this and digging deeper and thinking through maybe why was that decision made, and is it time now to reconsider that with safety and complete streets. And after listening to the Charlotte radio talk show, you know, Charlotte's got a goal of trying to get drivers reduced from 75% to 50% by 2040. So we have to have connected sidewalks. We have to have more bike lanes. And is that really built into our UDOs right now? I don't know. So quick thoughts.
You shared that Charlotte interview with the full group?
No, just send it to you and
Oh, okay.
Matthew right now. Yeah.
Okay, we'll share that out. I've got another article. So this is an interview with what's his title? He's
There were 3 people that they were interviewing. One was with
Mike. Go ahead.
One was with Public Works, and one was actually with UNC Charlotte, urban development maybe, or urban, I should have written it down. I'm not done, so I'll capture it when I get done with it.
Same here. Okay. So this was a radio interview from City of Charlotte that Carol had sent the link to, and we both started watching earlier this morning, and then I got pulled away and didn't finish. I read about a third of the article. There's another article that I sent to Matthew yesterday from Pittsburgh with similar examples on really focusing on bikeable, walkable, and fewer cars on the roads for safer streets, but also for meeting gaps in social equity, racial equity, that kind of thing. So really interesting approaches that tie into our work. And as Carol mentioned, those really do tie into that UDO presentation and how those policies impact building infrastructure and access. So we'll get those out to you in addition to that list that I sent earlier. Good stuff.
Carol, to your point about sidewalks on just one side of the street, that was the only question that I had about the plan as well. It doesn't, I imagine it's probably the most affordable way to ensure that there's at least some pedestrian passage, but it's for safety wise, it doesn't make any sense. I watched someone in a wheelchair on University last week. Like, it's too much effort to cross to the one side of University that has the sidewalk if you only need to go a block or two or up to the next intersection, but to watch that person try to navigate this, grassy terrain on the wheelchair was just like, it's not okay. We need to have sidewalks on both sides.
Yes, agree.
Welcome, Terry.
Hello, thank you for having me today.
Good morning, Terry. This is Matthew. I'm glad you could join us today. I think our intention was to have you present at our July meeting, but we're certainly glad to have you here as well. So we can discuss that later and discuss the July agenda. But for today, Sharon and Terry, we can certainly incorporate you into the agenda here, and you're welcome to listen in and chime in whenever you have the opportunity here.
Yeah, hi Terry. Sharon Nelson here. I'm not sure if you have visibility, if you're on a phone. Oh, you do. Hey.
Trying to get set up.
Guys.
I was sitting in on. Sorry about that. I was sitting in on the NCDOT meeting. Was doing double duty, but yeah, I just wanted to jump in and sit and observe today at least, and maybe if there was an opportunity to just contribute, but we can dive deeper in next month when I'm on the formal agenda.
Okay, no, I think that's great. Would you go ahead and introduce yourself? I know who you are, just because I follow your work, and I chair this committee. But I'd love for you to share with the group just a little bit about who you are and what you do. And we're really excited about the July presentation. So thanks for joining.
Well, thank you. My name is Terry Lansdale. I'm director of Bike Walk North Carolina. I know many of you on the call have maybe met in person or worked with you. And we are the only statewide advocacy organization. And we work hard to take grass tops leaders like yourself and organizations like this and help elevate their voices at the state level. And we're working on a couple of new programs this year. We've been a recipient of the Governor's Highway Safety Program to create a bicycle-friendly driver course that is not a course to teach the burden of roadway safety to cyclists or most vulnerable road users. It is to teach drivers the behavior characteristics of people who bike and people who walk so that they can be more cognizant of sharing the road, of sharing the space, and behind the wheel of a vehicle. So we've taken a very unique perspective of the Governor's Highway Safety Program and not associated with training victims, but training the drivers who have privileges to drive those vehicles on the road. So we also have a bicycle safety quiz, which is a much more in-depth product you can take online if you're a kid, if you're a bus driver, if you're a car driver, if you're a cyclist. We've crafted these messages to help you better test your knowledge, test your decision-making processes online at your own pace. It's a progressive learning tool, so there's nobody's watching you. There's no time limit or anything like that, so you can kind of continue to learn as you go along. But our third leg of our stool right now that we're working on is advocacy. We've got a lot of work behind us, but a lot more in front of us, and dealing with the repeal of the bicycle pedestrian funding limitation. And in this short session, just to wrap this up, is we've got two bills in which it's present, House Bill 1136 and the governor's budget, which is Senate Bill 792. We've been working hard over the past 4 years to try to change this at every opportunity, and we still continue to do that. We're down to the wire this year, but we're hoping to get more people aware and engaged in the process. So thanks very much for the few minutes, and apologies for being late, and glad you guys are here. And more importantly, I hope to be here more often with you on a monthly basis as a witness and participant and contributor where I'm available.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about that. Those quizzes are no joke. I've taken several and we have shared them. I'm going to present a little bit of our social media recap that the City of Winston did during Bike Month, and the quizzes were shared as part of that. And I feel like you have already been somehow listening into us, because that driver awareness education came up in discussion by our group members about 2 months ago with that question of, I think that's the states to create and come up with. So knowing that is in the launch process is just fantastic. So thanks for that. Those bills, when do you expect those to go to the floors for vote? Is that something that we should be advocating folks to help support right now?
Absolutely. Let me see if there's a chat feature here. I'll try to work with this. If not,
Okay.
I don't see a chat feature. There it is. Got it. I'll drop a link in the chat that'll get you kind of guiding along those lines. Am I okay to talk like this for you guys? I don't want to, if I can get a nod, just to sort of, I don't want to take too much of your time, because I was really just trying to get a feel for you today to sort of see.
Actually, our conversation today is loose. So I'll say that we had a few just information items to share, but the actual topic that we were going to be discussing was coming up with a future communication plan, which includes advocacy. I'll speak for myself, which is all I can do in the world, to say I welcome your input and comments, and others, you can give a nod if you're okay with that. But this was really loose dialogue today anyway, so I think it's perfect timing, really. Others?
Yeah, we don't have a quorum, so
Okay.
The only item we had to vote on was approval of minutes from last month. So we didn't have a, like big action item packed agenda for this. So listen in and chime in as you wish.
Sure. Yeah, I'm going to try to do some things on the fly here just to kind of help things along. But yeah, we've gotten a couple situations where, give me 1 second while I try to get to an email that I had sent out to folks.
And actually, if you have an email that has those bills and some steps to take,
Sure.
it would be maybe easier for me to send you an email after the meeting and then let me send that out to our full group since we have several members who aren't here. One of those, you may know, Amy Easter, who leads Winston-Salem Cycling Advocacy Network. So it'd be great to get those out to wider networks as well.
Sure. So yeah, House Bill 792 is the governor's budget. And what we've worked with the governor's office over the past 2 years is to create a situation in which the governor understands the burden of the 2013 Strategic Investments, STI law, the Strategic Investments, Transportation Investments Formula, sorry about that, of 2013 that made it illegal for the state to use Department of Transportation dollars for standalone bicycle and pedestrian projects. We really didn't understand the impact of that for quite some time because they grandfathered in projects already in the pipeline. So it took a couple of years for us to understand the impact of that. But by the time 2018 rolled around, we knew we were in trouble. We're not seeing any projects listed, et cetera, in DOT. And our funding had gone down to minimal dollars for the bike ped division in NCDOT, just enough to cover staffing costs. And that's really where we kind of recognize the real importance of that. So the governor gets that, he's like, he has Executive Order 246, which talks about making sure that we are providing non-vehicular transportation options. So he has in his budget the language to repeal the bicycle pedestrian funding limitation. That's an important conversation to be had, and it made it into the House budget last year. It made it into the Senate budget last year through 6 versions of the Senate budget and was pulled at the last 72 hours in conference committee in last session. So this session in Senate Bill 792, the governor has put that language back in. He's also done one step further. He's designated $10 million into 792 for bike ped funding. That's a significant change and a significant commitment. But as you guys know about the process, the governor submits his budget first, so he has to stick his neck out, his or her neck out, depending upon which term it is. And then everybody starts feeding on it or ripping it apart or supporting it in their own ways. So he put the information out there this year, and it has not been removed in the process now through several versions in the Senate. But we're chatting with 3 distinct individuals that control most all the purse strings for transportation and for the budget. That is Senator Sawyer, that is Senator McGinnis, and that is Senator Berger, who is the Senate Pro Tem. Nothing gets by Senator Berger that he doesn't want in the budget and any budget allocation or any bill in the Senate. It's upsetting as an advocate that that one person can yield so much power over 2 parties. We have Democrats who say, "Oh, we love it, we support it, but we just can't get it past him or the Senate Pro Tem." It's very upsetting when we have one roadblock and not enough challengers to overtake one individual, so to speak. Republicans are following the party line and kind of take the nods and winks from the Senate leadership. We had a disturbing meeting with Senator Sawyer this past week in which she said that she's going to have a hard time supporting it for 3 distinct reasons: that the DOT has overpromised and underdelivered, and that people wanting to sell their farmland in advance of a new roadway project are not able to do that because DOT is broke and $8 billion in the hole, which is the problem, describes the problem of the MAP Act that got us into this situation in the first place, where DOT took rights and property from owners without their fair market value being given. So it's an interesting concept there. The second piece is that there was conversation that in 2013, and I've been listening to the sessions from 2013, incredibly wonderful, riveting House and Senate sessions from 2013 that are available only in audio, trying to glean some of the background information that she referenced. And she said this was an effort by the repeal of bike ped funding limitation to impact MPOs and RPOs because they were finding ways to prioritize active transportation projects over new road projects. And they don't, and that she does not feel that bike ped funding belongs in the strategic investments formula. And that was a real challenge for us to hear, and it was hard for us as an advocacy group not to counter that immediately. The last thing she said that was a bit disturbing is that she felt very strongly that it could be funded in other areas. Now that's fine and good, but what that means is that there will be potentially just one lump sum of money, and then it'll have to be spread around all 100 counties. And how do we do an equitable distribution? One project may take all of it. There's lots of problems with that piece. The continuing conversation is to delay it, but we're trying not to delay it. It's a lot of information, really deep dive in a couple of minutes into the process, but it's out there. It's in a House budget and it's in a Senate, it's in a House bill and a Senate budget. And that's what we're trying to make that change. We know that the project lists that are out there that are sitting down low on the MPO and RPO lists of projects in their prioritization program, they're not even eligible to be considered because of this law. And we're not trying to have that sell at the General Assembly saying that this is going to be a significant budget impact. We're not going to take dollars away from roads. But we do want to make sure we're competitive in the process. So what that means is this, and we bounced off each other, and the perception is, the rhetoric is that, yes, DOT is $8 billion in the hole, but that is a $8 billion over a 10-year plan for projects. What we're seeing and what we're getting information from our lobbyists is that within 2 years, there should be a surplus in DOT to the tune of $450 million. We want to make sure that when that happens, that we are at the table and not sitting elsewhere in the building begging for scraps. And it all comes down to this one small change, these 5 words that change it from shall not to may, and from no local projects to local projects. It's really crazy that those 5 words, from shall not to may, can have a direct impact on our safety, can have a direct impact on how we build our roads, and the advancement of complete streets designs as we move forward. That's kind of where we're at in a nutshell for our budget piece. So what can you do? It would be great if you could, if you have the ability, to support the Child Fatality Task Force. We worked hard this past year to get the Child Fatality Task Force to join us in understanding the impact, how these 5 words, this line in the budget and the law impacts safety on our roads. If your group had the nimbleness to come up with we support the Child Fatality Task Force and the elimination of the 2013 law prohibiting the use of state transportation funding related to independent bike ped infrastructure projects, that would be all the recommendation I would suggest that you would drive forward. And that would be sent to your council, your mayor, to be sent to your legislative representative in Raleigh. That would be a recommendation, and certainly I'm going to be making that recommendation to BPACs in Durham, the ones here in Charlotte and ones in Wilmington and across the state as well.
Okay. Thanks, Terry. What's your email address? Just so I'm going to write that down real quick to send.
Yeah, it's director@bikewalknc.org.
Okay.
I just dropped it in the chat as well.
Great. You know, I was not aware of that, that funding dilemma that you mentioned until we were called out at the national level this past winter. I believe it was when the state report cards were released. Bike-friendly cities, bike-friendly businesses, all of that state report cards were released. And in an article, they specifically mentioned, and North Carolina has this wonky ruling that prevents DOT dollars from being used for bike infrastructure. And I did some digging and uncovered that, but I was completely unaware of that. So I'm glad to see that there's hope on the horizon, and we can certainly send that message out as well as this to our team and get it out to that wider circle. So thank you.
Yeah, it was. We were great to work so closely with the league, and we helped craft that language just to kind of make sure that everybody understood the situation. And the league's been incredibly valuable in helping us through this process as well.
Awesome. Great. Any immediate questions around that? I don't want to steal Terry's thunder for July, but since he's here. Okay, awesome. Well, speaking of advocacy, engagement, and awareness, I'm going to see if I can make this work right. I'm going to share my screen. Get this up. The right view. Hold on 1 second. I love that every piece of technology has you do this trick differently. Done. Okay, I think the fun part is that I am not seeing what you're seeing. So do you see a bicycle?
Yes, it just
Okay.
gets through.
Great. I can see it now too. So we're all on the same page. Matthew was able to get a recap of the overall social media effort that was conducted by the City of Winston-Salem Marketing Department during Bike Month. They shared that with us just a couple of days ago, and from that I put together this just quick down and dirty little report highlighting some of those efforts. So we're really grateful to have that team engaged with us, and thankful for their support as well. They use 4 platforms: Twitter, Nextdoor, Instagram, and Facebook. Okay. Just a quick highlight. They did 35 separate posts on Facebook, 10 unique messages, so some of those were repeated. Overall reach and impressions, so the number of Facebook users who might have seen the post ranged from about 100 on the low end to 11,000 on the high end, most in that 200 to 2,000 range. The highest post engagement was one that asked the question, did you know you can get a ticket in a bike lane? And that had over 11,000 impressions, which makes me think that that one might have been a paid ad or a boosted, what Facebook calls a boosted post. Total impressions for the entire month of May, though, was close to 30,000. Instagram, they did 13 separate posts, again, 7 unique messages, so some of those were posted more than once. Average impression, very steady on Instagram, was around 1,000 per post. And the post with the highest number of views was we've added 15 miles of new bike lanes, which was on May 18th for almost 3,000 impressions. And the total for May was just over 14,000 impressions for Instagram. Next door, 9 posts, and each of those was a unique separate message with either click-throughs to those surveys we've mentioned, engagement efforts, or just, hey, it's bike month, here's some activities, or the parking in bike lane message. Average impression, almost every post had the same number, so I'm guessing that's the subscribers on Nextdoor. I'm not really familiar with that platform, so I don't really know how it works. 1,100 individuals, and the total for the month was 11,717. Twitter, they had 17 separate tweets with 6 different topics. So again, repeated messages on some of those. Median engagement range was between 400 and 800. The highest post engagement, again, that did you know you can get a ticket if you park in a bike lane, on May 20th with over 2,000. Total for the month on Twitter was over 11,000. So we had some good visibility throughout the community. A word on this is reach and impressions. So we did not get click-through data to show posts with the highest number of clicks on a link or shares or likes. This is just kind of how many different account holders might have seen the post. And then just some sample posts from Instagram. Though we've added 15 miles of new bike lanes post. And you can see just from my screen grab that there were 36 likes on that, several comments. Do not park in a bike lane post, again, 60 likes on Instagram with that one, and several comments. This one from Facebook, same, the bike lane post. And then I hope you all have seen this really exciting news. And Matthew, I'll let you speak to this, but there is light at the end of the puddle. I love the little caption on this. Not officially Bike Month, but still related. This went out, I believe, on Monday with the news that it's official. We're going to get we have some funding, and we're going to pursue a solution to our lovely Salem Creek Greenway spillway and creek crossing. And that's the end of that. I'll stop sharing. Maybe. Okay.
Sharon, I know that some of the users actually make comments or ask questions. Do we know if marketing is responding to the comments and questions?
I had that question as I was looking through these this morning as well, Carol. There were some questions, like one I saw a person asked, I don't know where to park when I visit this greenway. Is there an official parking lot? And I did not see a response to that. Matthew, I know sometimes they'll address a specific post or comment to you, because we've had specific comments come up actually around that Salem Creek Greenway flooding issue. But otherwise, do you have any sense of how often or regularly they try to respond to folks?
So within marketing, it's really just one person who's responding to all of the social comments throughout the city for everything. For most of those that I know of, that's the one contact I have. What I have in mind is I can review those questions and proactively respond and send him the information so that he can follow up on those questions. So there weren't so many questions that it's impossible to do that. So I will just respond to those questions. They're relatively simple, and I think I can just send him those responses, and he can post them then.
Do you want help from the group in that? Because to peruse all four and
No, I think that's okay. The questions that I had seen, were pretty quick answers. I don't think it's going to take much time for me to go through and do that.
okay. Carol and I both have sort of the same look on our face. Okay. Feel free to divide that out though.
No,
Okay.
no.
Yeah, I'm happy to take Instagram.
Yeah, well, I won't get off too far onto the sidebar, but it was interesting to see how easy or not easy it was to run a search and pull up information on Facebook when I ran Bike Month as a search on the city's page, and I started clicking on images to save them. I realized I was getting like 2015, 2016 dates. So I had to circle back and self-correct on that, but at least you can get a list that way. Okay, well, you let us know if you get bogged down and want some help. I think those are
Sure.
pretty easy to run through too.
Yeah, and some of those were, they are fairly simple. The one you mentioned about the Greenway, for instance, was a Greenway in Clemens. So, we may have to refer to Clemens to get some answers on some of those questions. So it may take a little research outside of just DOT to answer those.
Okay. Oh, and then the puddle solution. I knew there was something else I wanted you to talk about.
Sure. So the MPO, the Metropolitan Planning Organization, which is our regional transportation planning group and the group that controls some of the federal transportation funding that comes to our area, we conduct I work for the city, but also for the MPO, and every other year we conduct a call for projects. And so we request project ideas from the communities within the MPO, and then we use objective criteria to rate those projects and evaluate them. And then we make a suggestion to the governing board based on that evaluation. And one of the projects that the city of Winston-Salem submitted was to repair and fix that low water bridge and that flooding issue along the Salem Creek Greenway. There was certainly the recognition that because of that flooding, it's very difficult to use that corridor as a transportation option. So it was a priority for the city. So we submitted that through the MPO call for projects, and it scored well enough that it was one of the projects that was funded. So we have about $1 million, including federal and local sources. So those federal funds cover 80% of a project cost, and the local funds there's a 20% local match requirement. So the next steps for us on that would be to hire a consulting engineer to help us figure out what's going on with that location, and then devise a solution and design that solution. So that'll be the next step for us now that funding has been approved.
That's great. Thank you so much.
And one more thing related to the call for projects. We also, through that call, kind of concurrently, program planning funds as well. And one of the projects that we received planning funds for was to plan and develop a wayfinding system for the Greenway network. So we will we'll begin work on that this summer and have that design in place, and then bid that out for construction after we have a plan and a set of designs for those signs that will be installed. So a lot of good news from that call for projects.
That is very exciting as well, and I'm seeing other committee members nodding on that one too. Yay! I know. Yeah, I had an experience at Marketplace several months ago, but we're two different people. We're trying to help a couple from Galax directionally make their way to Salem Lake, and you can explain it, but you really need to be standing in front of them once you get to some of those wonky crossings. So I'm really excited about that. That will be wonderful project to delve into, and I know this committee will get excited about supporting as well.
And yeah, this group actually, the intention is to get this group involved with that design, so that that design for those wayfinding signs also includes design of a new bike walk map for the city. So this group will be important to the development of that map too. So we'll certainly get you involved with that.
That's great. Any questions around those news items? Okay. Awesome. Okay, moving on with our agenda. The next thing that we were going to talk about was communication goals. We're at 9:44. So I'm not sure how much time we have to delve into this, but just in thinking through communication and advocacy, which are linked, but could also be separated into different buckets. Are there things that immediately come to mind? Opportunities to impart change, low-hanging fruit, activities or ways that you see other groups communicating and engaging broader community members, examples that you want to share. Again, this is meant to be just sort of an open dialogue with you to share any ideas you have. And I'm going to mute myself so that I do not keep talking, because I will.
I have a couple of, or sorry, were you going to go, Carol?
No, go ahead, Kim.
I have a couple of kind of passion interests. Is it just regarding, so for, you know, I work with older adults and people with Alzheimer's disease and other dementias, and the Alzheimer's Association has their Walk to Remember every November. This year it's November 5th. And I thought that might be a good opportunity for us to to just mix with that, with the crowd, let them know about our committee, what our goals are, and give them the opportunity just to know that there is advocacy opportunity in terms of pedestrian mobility when you've lost the ability to drive. Mm-hmm. And just allow, like, open up the path for more engagement with that community.
I love that. I love connecting to and reminding us of those other populations when we're talking about needs in the community. It also reminds me that I think one of the things we put when we get to creating a communication plan, work plan around this, is that we need to include what does a presence look like when we attend community events. Mm-hmm. So what materials do we need to have? What does a booth presence look like? What physical elements need to be there? What pieces of paper to distribute need to be there? What information should we be collecting? And what do we do to get people to approach our booth? So two good reminders in that one sentence that you shared. Mm-hmm. Notes.
I had a blast at the Earth Day Fair. I don't know, Matthew, if you also had fun, but if anybody else volunteered there, but it was fun just engaging with the community and letting people know what's happening. It's really hard to know what city services are being provided in our community. And so it's just a great way to get out and get some opportunity to engage.
Kim, did you say you had two things?
I do. I have one other interest because I work in mental health. One of my passions is being able to engage people in nature as much as possible. I take my clients forest bathing. It's Shinrin Yoku is this Japanese term to help improve the mental health of individuals just by engaging in nature. And I think about the pedestrian walkways that we have and maybe pulling in landscape architects and urban developers, maybe just to come and visit with us at some point and talk about opportunities that there might be in our city to create more meditative interactions with nature along our pedestrian walkways.
I love that. That's really the, I don't think I can separate that from the physical health aspect of riding a bike, but that has been one of the shifts for me during the pandemic into what I get personally out of that experience. And I have gone from a person who was beginning to really delve into and focus on the social aspects and join group rides and group activities to a person who really only wants to ride solo so that I can experience that immersion.
Mm-hmm.
It's everything to me now. And I have a really hard time pushing back on friends who keep saying, hey, when are we going to go ride? And I'm kind of like, never, you know, sorry, it's my time. Yeah. So I love that. And, you know, I ride by the Gateway Nature Preserve and other areas in Tanglewood, where someone has gone through the entire mountain bike trail there and created little fairy house doors under the trees. I don't know who did that, but I love them. It's the cutest thing. And just that like, oh, surprise moment, but then all the thoughts of how everything from creatures small to large and children and dog walkers and others who are on those trails get that same little moment of, oh, how cute. Yeah, all of that. I love that. I don't know what that looks like in a planning process, but ways that we can make that connection and build that experience for others and make it accessible. I totally agree.
I think one specific example of it is on, is it Liberty, the bus station across the street from the across Liberty from the bus station, or is it Trade? Maybe Trade. There's like a concrete walkway that goes in between buildings that connects the street. And Kristen Hoff with Roots First Design, I think, was the one who was responsible for creating like landscaping through that section. It's just like a break in the city pavement to have some influx of nature.
Yeah, I think the Downtown Winston-Salem partnership funded that, if I'm remembering right. I know there was an Arts Council proposal submitted also, so it may have been jointly funded. Honestly, I've not seen the results of that project. For those who aren't sure where she's referencing, it's kind of between the hotel, the Marriott, if it's still called the Marriott downtown, and the bus station. On the back side, it runs beside kind of the employee parking lot on the back side of the hotel across to the bus station.
Mm-hmm.
Between Trade and Cherry Street, then I think it's between Trade and Cherry.
Yes.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Yep.
That was a very nice project. Yes.
Yeah. So maybe our work can be helping to get the word out in terms of where there are easily accessible points of nature for pedestrians that have already been developed, and just encouraging people to engage in that. You know, the green art space as well is lovely too, but I don't know how often it's utilized.
I wonder if some of this could be partnered with the City Appearance Committee, because they focus on that around the city.
Yeah, I'd love to see us build partnerships with that committee, the Historic Commission, and the Public Arts Commission. A friend of mine in Maryland rode this past weekend. I don't remember the name of the trail in Pennsylvania, but the entire length of the trail is filled with bike sculptures. They're all by the same artist, and they're just fabulous. There's old bike parts that created a dog and a person. There's a horse and a person. There's all kinds of cycling images. Just really fun, kind of visual eye candy along that greenway, which is really cool. So there's opportunities to reach for some future elements as well. Yeah, I like that. I wrote your easily accessible points of nature. I like how you worded that.
I think in addition for our communication plan would be education. I liked a lot of the posts that we did in the month of May. To Kim's point, we also need to focus on pedestrians as well as bicycles. And I know it was Bike Month, but it is important to think broadly about all of the individuals that need alternative transportation. You know, not only the vehicleists, but the disabled. And I've just, in a lot of the reading that we've done recently with what you shared, Sharon, it has that broad focus. And language is something we need to start trying to change or introduce. Some of the terminology that I'm starting to see, you know, the action, mobility, strategic, mobility, safe, equitable. I think all of those words we need to start trying to incorporate in the communications that we're sending out so that people are thinking not just of cars, but sending messages that all of these people are transporting themselves from one location to another, and it doesn't have to be a car. It can be you know, your own 2 feet, or it can be 2 wheels, or 4 wheels if it's a wheelchair. But to me, that's the communication that we need to start focusing on. So those were my thoughts.
Yeah, I like that. I mentioned earlier that I had shared an article with Matthew yesterday from Pittsburgh, where they're really looking at low vehicle goals and active mobility options for Pittsburgh. One of the things that they have done there is create a single app that has all micromobility options together in one place, which in and of itself is cool. You know, you can look at bike share, you can look at scooters, you can do public transport, whatever you need all in one place. But the comment from the person in talking about the justification for that was that allowing people to use a scooter doesn't take away from a person using a bike share. And we tend to think of things in those siloed or competitive buckets, but that's not the reality of folks who are out there using these elements. You know, a scooter might be fun when you're out with friends for one purpose, but then a bike share might be more appropriate if you need to go to a grocery store or to run to a pharmacy to pick up stuff to bring back home where you have a basket. So removing that competitiveness from both the vendor side and the policymaker side and looking at things as multiple options and choices for the individual end user was a really great framework to present that in. So I thought that was an interesting approach.
I had a question or comment I'd like to make is, do we have a lot of our bike and ped materials at hotels and places where visitors come to stay for periods of time. The visitor center down on Brookstown, Old Salem Visitor Center, places like that. I just seems like some of those materials might be of value, particularly for the bike share and scooters and so forth like that, that our visitors have other options on getting around that they may not be aware of, what the rules are, what the regulations are, and what opportunities are. So just wondering whether we made any sort of initiative or effort along that.
You know, that's a great question, Greg. Michael Hosey and I met with the Visit Winston-Salem marketing team. It's been over a year ago now, just for introduction and then they supported our efforts in getting information out to their hotel and attractions committees on the bike-friendly business opportunity. I think that'd be a great conversation to revisit. Matthew, to my knowledge, we have not actively provided them with information recently. But I think especially as we come into the Cycling Classic, Beers and Gears Festival, it'd be a great time to get that information out to them.
I'm also thinking about, we've had a couple of hotels open up recently within the last year that probably has never had any materials presented to their front desk or their management there that may help.
So I can comment on that real quickly. So we have always distributed maps and other information through the visitor center, but we can certainly expand that to hotels and convention center and all those other destinations for visitors. So certainly open to that, and especially as we develop the new bike map and bike and walk map, that we would get that out to that organization and others again.
Okay, great. I'll circle back with Caitlin at Visit Winston-Salem. She had mentioned that there could be opportunity for our group to present. They have quarterly, maybe more often than that, but I think they're quarterly meetings. They have a restaurant roundtable partnership with Downtown Winston-Salem, and then they have the attractions group and hotels group. But to get our group in front of them, talk about some of the accomplishments and new announcements, and then provide them with print copies of our information that we have available. Be good.
One thing to keep in mind as we start on that bike walk map is that is typically a sought after item, for people generally, and especially for visitors, just to have that map on them. I would, the group can start thinking about what other messages we want to incorporate into that map. So it doesn't have to just be a map, it can be an education tool as well. And so maybe start thinking about how we can use that map strategically to be more than just a map and actually be an education tool.
Great reminder.
Oh, Sharon, one other thought that I had, some of the other committees, not very many of them, but they advertise their upcoming meetings. And maybe to increase our visibility, we could begin to post on those 4 social media channels that we have an upcoming meeting. And I don't think that they usually say much other than they have a logo and say next meeting is, so that would be good. Maybe we could get some other people to tune in and listen to our conversations.
Yeah, and just ongoing social media posts in general, to be part of that on a regular basis would be good. Good reminder there too. Oh, I didn't realize it was after 10. How'd that happen? Any other quick comments on that? I apologize for running over.
I'd just like to invite Terry back as much as he can attend. I think
Yes.
his comments and information and knowledge is certainly valuable for our committee. So whatever time he can squeeze in his busy schedule to join us on a monthly basis, I would encourage that, and hope you will enjoy us and join our committee meetings whenever possible. So
Thank you,
Thank
Terry.
you. I'll do my best. Yeah, appreciate that. I did load you guys up in the chat, so if you want to click on those links before you leave, open up in your browser. There's lots of information there, and I took it upon myself to reply to one of your Facebook comments. I don't usually do that, but yeah, the cyclists don't pay their fair share is a misnomer. We have a specific tax code in the state revenue. It's not our fault that our General Assembly has not transferred that tax over to the highway fund. Lots of opportunity for that. So I want to thank you again. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Matthew, especially for making that connection. Have a great day.
Thanks, Terry.
Thanks, Terry.
Look forward to July.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye, everyone. Thanks for your comments and time today, and we will see you next week.